Millennials, what's y'all plan for retirement? Story 1. I figure there are at least 3 big economic busts between now and then, so I'm planning to die in a beach jet ski shoot. I'm hoping to get off work in time to attend my funeral. Story 2. Maxing out my Roth IRA, nearly maxing my company's traditional 401k, should be all good by 60, then I can do whatever I want. SS would be a nice bonus, but I'm not counting on it. Story 3. State pension, hopefully doesn't crash so bad that other streams of income collapse too, but if the state pension fund goes away we have way bigger problems than retirement anyway. Story 4. Die at my job, am neurodivergent and have never worked anything other than minimum wage jobs. I have no savings and no pension. I'll keel over mopping one day and that will be that. My job will be filled by that afternoon. Story 5. My goal is to retire no later than 65, 23 years to go WO with a paid-off house and live a modest life working in the garden, going for walks, removing all alarm clocks from my house, weekend trips, maybe one bigger vacation every couple years, having my kids and grandchildren if they exist over for dinners, holidays, etc. Story 6. Early death. No, seriously, I had to retire at 38 because of disability and now live with an amount of money that's about half the poverty line in my country. I'm fairly certain that if my disabilities don't get me first, prolonged poverty will most certainly take care of my life expectancy. Story 7. I've got a decent job and a solid setup for retirement. The problem is making enough money to live in the meantime. I don't want to wait till I'm in my 60s to afford to live. Story 8. There is so much self-loathing in this thread. Why don't you guys work toward a career that will allow you to save for retirement instead of dooming? With a 60 to 80k job and living below your means, you don't have to live downtown in a trendy city. You can definitely save at least 10 to 15 of your income. Story 9. 15 years more of full-time work will give me 25 years worth of retirement, then work 5 years part-time for spending traveling money. This is my second pension. I had to cash out the first pension, the down payment of my house. Story 10. Contributing as much as I can to my 401k, hoping SS will still be around when I reach my 60s. Work the entrance gates part-time at Disneyland for fun. Story 11. I'm a member of the electrical union and will retire with 2 pensions and a money purchase plan annuity. Our current retirees make more being retired than they did working. Story 12. I'm just delulu, so I'm still convinced I'm going to win the lotto at some point. Kidding. I have a ton of investment stocks, bonds, crypto, ETFs that pay me, 401k at 15, universal life insurance policy, no debt, old car, never buy new clothes. My only money spending is I live on the beach, so my area makes it easy to walk and I love the ocean. I don't drink, so that's helpful, and Mai and I are home buddies, so we love being home with our pups. I know life sounds boring, but I'm not working past 50 and working hard now to make that happen. Story 13. Be dead by 70. I will not work longer than my dad and my granddad when the entire point of moving humanity forward is for things to be better for the next litter. When the boomers got theirs, then pulled up the ladder. Story 14. Teach in Massachusetts for 30 years, then retire on 80 pension. Teachers around here can make 90 to 100k and that's only going up. You'll never be living in Beverly Hills, but retirement is basically guaranteed. Thank God for teachers' unions. Story 15. Honestly, high-key looking to move abroad. A good chunk of my country is hellbent on up and we've been through so many downturns only to be told to eat less avocado toast and buy a starter home, as if any of that is practical advice. Story 16. Currently mentally preparing myself for life with no kids and staying single forever, because why would I want to bring someone into this whole world we've built? Hopefully you'll have enough to retire in some other country that's cheap enough to where I no longer really have to worry about money. Then I just play video games until I keel over and die. Story 17. Ha 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 You're right. Story 18. Physician-assisted suicide. Not even a joke. I've got some health conditions that will continue to get worse as I age. At some point, they will overtake me and everything I love doing out of my life. That'll be it for me. I estimate that it'll be in my mid-60s when that happens. And that's enough life for me. Or, with the way the country is going, I will light myself on fire on the steps of Congress in protest of what this administration is doing to trans rights. What retirement? Story 19. I'm gonna crochet the most obvious fake gun you've ever seen. Then I'm gonna go to the bank and demand all their money. No one will shoot me, because it'll look so ridiculous, but they'll send me to either prison or a state mental hospital. Either way, free room and board and 3 square meals a day sounds like retirement to me. Story 20. By 60 house will be paid off. 401k and IRA will have 30 years in them. I'm an only child, so will have my parents' stuff by then. Not much, a house and 200 acres, susu, probably living in the middle of nowhere trying to learn to feed myself with my own land, hoping savings gets me through. Story 21. I have an IRA, other savings, and own my primary residence, but like mostly I'm hoping that by the time I'm unable to work due to health, disability, etc., I'll have enough money for the rest of my life. Feels more like a hope than a plan. Story 22. I'm planning not to live long after retirement. I'm so sleep deprived and broke that when I reach that age I will just spend whatever savings I'll be able to make and then finally take some sleeping pills and be done with all this. Story 23. Wait for that sweet trickle-down money that's been promised by every Republican president since Reagan. Barring that, it just die I guess. Story 24. I gave up on the notion of hefty nest egg for retirement, instead trying to see life more holistically by taking care of my stress, sleep, what I eat and keeping relationships honest each day. I save where I can and try to work in places I don't hate. Plus I can see myself working part-time during retirement out of sheer boredom. Story 25. There is no plan. Even if you have money, death is almost never graceful and often results in being horrifying and slow. Still cannot believe suicide is not legal for medical patients with dementia, ALS, or Alzheimer's. Story 26. This is going to be unpopular, but my wife and I early 30s are well ahead on our retirement plan and should have the option to retire in our early 50s, even if we'd like to work longer. Assuming even moderate rates of return, I think there's a very good chance we get to our early 50s with 8-10M in overall wealth and a scenario where it could be 50 to 100 higher than that depending on my career trajectory. This is excluding anything related to real estate and also doesn't account for anything we may inherit from my wife's rather well-off parents, and assuming we get nothing from my very poor parents, we're very lucky to be in this position. Story 27. Keep growing my 401k, IRA, and brokerage accounts for money to live on, and plan to have our mortgage paid off in 10 years, just hoping the markets hold up over the next 20 years. Story 28. Same as it's always been. Save as much as you can now and live within your means so that you can actually retire. I know it's harder now than it used to be, but I don't think it's productive to be in the retirement camp, and just throw your hands up. Do what you have to do, even if it means downsizing your life a little right now. Get that 5-year-old Civic instead of a brand new Jeep. Live in that apartment for a while longer instead of buying the house you can't really afford. Don't eat out 5 nights a week. Contribute to your 401k if you have one, up to any company match. Then try to max out a Roth IRA. After that, start putting more in your 401k. Personally, I've got a small percentage in crypto that has done well over the years, but that's a high-risk one and not for everybody. And if you can't do any of the above, try working on your career and find something that you're good at to make more money. Story 29. I'm a geriatric millennial within the usual years for millennial, but right on the cusp of Gen X. But retirement looks pretty good for my wife and me. We're lucky to be working in high-paying fields 6 figures, comfortable but not stratospherically rich, and we're contributing substantially to 401 Burmese Chots U.S. tax-sheltered retirement accounts that you can set to automatically take a percentage of each paycheck. Provided we both keep our jobs or have layoff gaps no more than a few months, and not both of us at the same time, and Trump doesn't tank the entire country, we should be in decent shape. We should have mostly paid off our house by then, and can live on retirement accounts even if Social Security gets completely canned. I expect to get a little something from it, but much less than I've been promised, so I'm trying not to rely on it. I have a lot of friends who aren't in nearly such good shape though, and I spent a solid decade just barely getting by as a freelance musician, so I have a bit more of the paycheck-to-paycheck perspective and empathy than most folks doing comparably well. Story 30. I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence then, have my meals and board paid for by the government until I die and be known as the guy who stole the Declaration of Independence. Story 31. I think I'm technically still Gen X, but only barely. My retirement plan is basically to die together with everyone else within the next 10 or 20 years when that bunch of fascist losers that have somehow become the world's ruling elite finally blow everything up due to their greed and stupidity. Story 32. Visit my financial planner annually since I was 23-38 now and review investments. I make about 65 kier. Things are looking good to retire between 58 and 65. Story 33. Is retirement even real? I've heard dozens of stories of oldies retiring and going back to work because they can't afford it or are just plain bored. Maybe retirement existed when housing was affordable and salaries met inflation or were fair market price, but this isn't today's reality anymore. Retirement isn't even my concern, but will my kids be able to make it too? Story 34. My 401k, 30 and plenty saved. Current estimate will be 1 million by 45. By retirement RN estimate is 6 million, good to go, and I just make an average salary. Story 35. Robbing a bank. It's a win-win situation. I either pull it off and enjoy the money, or I get arrested and enjoy free housing, food, and can spend my time reading and chilling. Story 36. Probably a massive heart attack brought on by the copious amounts of nicotine and caffeine I've grown accustomed to in order to cope with the milieu I've inadvertently mired myself in, by virtue of 2 horny idiots deciding to raw dog it a few years too early late for real success in life. Story 37. Older millennial. I saved early on a modest income and have cheap hobbies, on track to retire by 50, likely work a little longer by choice. Compound interest is your greatest ally. Story 38. Work my off to buy a trailer in a trailer park and travel the world while the others struggle to pay the bills to maintain that $1 million house. Story 39. Honestly, I'm lucky in that I actually have a comfortable retirement setup, That's just the financial aspect of it through. What is really keeping any of us from retiring peacefully will be climate change. It's insane how millions of people aren't taking it seriously enough, with greedy sociopaths like Donald Trump pushing us even closer past the point of no return so his billionaire handlers can make even more money than they'll need in 1,000 lifetimes. If you live on this planet, guaranteed it'll affect you too. Money is a huge factor, but so is destabilizing the food chain, polluting our natural resources, and destructive weather patterns increasing in frequency intensity. Story 40. I want to retire in my 40s in South America or Europe. I'm currently in my early 30s. My goal is to secure between 60 to 100k income, shooting for 2.5 M in savings. I plan on selling my house to keep me afloat until I can start pulling from my retirement accounts, and to have a fully paid off house abroad by the time I retire. Story 41. Saved like crazy, made some good money moves, and lived at home during my 20s, and I just bought a house I'd be comfortable with till the day I die. Plan is to pay that off, continue to invest with my TFSA RRSP, and near the end of my career, switch to a public sector job with a pension plan for the final 5 to 10 years of my working life. Additionally, I'm very fortunate my wife and I both have parents who are good with money, so some inheritance money later on should help. I fully acknowledge that I'm very privileged, and this is not something most people were given the opportunity to have. I truly feel sorry for many of my millennial friends who most weren't given the same opportunities. I wish all of you the best of luck, really hoping the economy turns for the better and we can all flourish. Story 42. I hope to retire by 65 with 90 of my pre-retirement salary if Social Security still exists by then. If not, probably push my retirement back by 5 years or so. Story 43. I've been maxing out my employer contribution to my 401k and throwing 50 week into my Roth IRA. I was actually hitting my goal for on-time retirement in 30-ish years. But if we lose Social Security, I have no idea how I'm going to make up for lost time on the amount of investing it would take to make up the difference. I don't go on vacations or weekend trips. I just bought new pants for the first time in 3 years. I live a much smaller life than my peers, grew up kinda poor, so I know how to stretch a dollar, but more importantly how to deny myself. I shouldn't have to limit myself this much to live, nor should anyone else, but right now I have a survival mentality. Story 44. Jail. I get a bed, food, clothing, a job, community, and I get to do some cool to usher in my retirement. Maybe Luigi just wanted to retire early. Story 45. 2 million in my retirement accounts, military pension and lifetime health insurance. SS if available. I should hit these goals in the next 10 years at 48, but will keep working until 58 because I love my job. Story 46. I'm gonna die in the climate wars. If we survive Civil War II, of course. That, or we're all just gonna get nuked. I don't anticipate many of us actually retiring. Story 47. In all honesty, very aggressive investment choices, like borderline dumb choices. I've only recently been in a financial state where I could save, and I'm 41. I'm also going to try doing some mega backdoor Roth stuff. It doesn't necessarily involve but I suppose it could be included. It's a way to raise your retirement savings quickly. For those that don't know, you can invest your HSA, Roth IRA, and traditional IRA into whatever you want. HSA is the most flexible account type as it can be tax-free for medical, and taxed after earnings like a traditional IRA. Max that out now. Story 48. Pretty sure in lieu of Social Security, the American government may start offering a 6-pack of Twisted Tea and revolver with a single bullet, so I think that's probably the plan. Story 49. I'm disabled. I have a terminal illness that is taking longer to kill me than anyone thought it would. I get $600 a month in disability payments and am only still alive because of System Medicare and Medicaid. This administration thinks I should be dead. I'm starting to think they'll make that a reality soon. So I won't be retiring in the same sense as most others. Story 50. In between my contribution and my employers, I put in 25 of paycheck into a pension account. IDLL go up to 28 in April. I think 30 years of that will do. My fiancé's parents are also wealthy and there will be a significant inheritance one day, so even if I don't want to rely on it, that's a bit of a relief too. Story 51. Probably just keep investing money and not spending too much. Stay debt-free, of course. Keep maxing out my Roth IRA in addition to my other retirement accounts. Invest in index funds and keep that growing. Try to stay healthy and out of the hospital system. Enjoy my life and retirement as well. Play a lot of video games and hike and ski as long as my body holds out. I don't think it's worth stressing too much. As long as my basic needs are met, it will be fine. I might not even live to retirement anyway, so it's no use fretting about. Story 52. 10 more years of military. Move to Europe to provide a better life for the family. Find a tech job there and do another 20. Have 2 retirements and just travel at 62. Story 53. Plan A pension, annuity, Roth IRA, and investments if all continues on track. Plan B surviving day to day in a post-apocalyptic environment. I'm hoping for Plan A. Story 54. I literally hope that at some point before I grow old 29M that America figures it out. For us struggling, of these politicians, all of these banks, this stupid backward system. This is beyond bullshit. Why am I renting still a studio apartment, when I can by all means with my career be able to afford to live and enjoy life, let alone plan my retirement? So to answer your question, prayers and wishes my friend, prayers and wishes, I plan on dying before then, so Story 55. Kill myself in 10 or 15 years when the planet is a whole on fire if I don't die of an extremely simple medicine being unmackable and affordable due to the collapse of society resources. Story 56. Retirement is death now. No one is actively fighting for the right to have one paycheck pay for a house. Until you get your together, the company owners will keep taking advantage until they physically can't anymore, then they will still blame you as the worker for it. I don't understand why more people my age aren't absolutely enraged we don't get the spending power our parents had. Story 57. Grim answers. Here I'm planning on taking income one make off of my investment accounts including retirement accounts. If you're reading this and you're a millennial, retiring is not unobtainable. Start investing now. The earlier you can start the better. I really hate the narrative that we won't be able to retire because I think it ends up paralyzing a lot people and stops them from saving. Story 58. I'm marrying into money, and that is allowing me to go back to college at 32 and have a higher paying career when I graduate and already have the house paid for. My in-laws are starting a retirement account for me. Before that, I grew up not knowing if the lunch lady was going to throw my lunch in the garbage can because my parents couldn't afford to pay that week. I joined the Navy and became independent the hard but reliable way, got out and worked my off to pay rent until I lucked out, and no, I'm not marrying her for the money. Just really fortunate it's playing out really well there. Story 59. I'm not gonna retire or buy a house. I don't see how it could be possible when a house is on average 7x the average annual income. I don't have any expectations this will change. Story 60. I made the cut and landed a good career job right out of college with a pension and good salary. Also made the cut in entering the housing market many years before it all went to, and I was able to keep one small property to rent. I also married someone that lives to work. It has its costs in other areas of life for sure, but I think it could enable me to retire around the time where I am eligible for full pension. I might have to stay a year or two longer as it will be right around the time kids are in post-secondary. I feel for those that are 10 to 15 years younger than me and never got a fair shot at the same opportunities. I have some friends that are in that boat. Story 61. Move to a lower-cost European country near mountains or a beach and live on savings, and hopefully Social Security still around by then, or work forever if things don't work out. Story 62. What's funny is how poor of a decision joining the military was viewed as in the 90s and 2000s, and now that seems like it was the best shot for any of us to have a retirement. Story 63. Inheriting from the boomers. Yes, I realize this puts me in a position of massive privilege. I do have enough money in a pension already that I'm not going to starve even if said boomers decide to leave the lot to Battersea Dog's home, which again is a privileged situation that has essentially only come about because one person in my marriage was fortunate to be born into a comfortable family. We've had help to buy a family home way back before the 2008 crash, without which we would probably still be renting, and the knock-on effect of being owners rather than renters is that we've been able to put money aside rather than lining the pockets of a landlord. I am grateful every day for our good fortune and I make substantial efforts to share the wealth where I can through charity work and donations. I really feel for my peers who aren't as fortunate. It feels like millennials have had a pretty deal in many ways. Story 64. I've been putting into a Roth since I was 20. I'm retiring from the military in 5 years. We'll see if anything shakes loose after that. Goal is to make it to retirement age, sell homes, use equity to pay cash and downsize and retire. Story 65. Guys, it's not that hard really, like a little self-discipline is required, and maybe it's harder than it was in the past, but the pity party is getting old. Story 66. When I got my current job, all my boss ever wanted to talk about was how his retirement was coming up and he was excited to travel the world with his wife and live out their lifelong dream. 2 weeks before his retirement, his wife's legs stopped working and she was dead within 2 days of a random neurological disorder. He has been a completely different man since and cancelled his retirement. I have no focus on retirement or really my career as a whole anymore. I'm going to work and take opportunities that present themselves, but the vast majority of my life's focus is enjoying life with my wife.